The alarm started screaming at 3 in the morning, station time. Commander rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his uniform before his eyes were fully open. 15 years in the fleet had taught him that alarms in deep space meant something had gone very wrong. He reached the command center in 2 minutes. Dr. Blake was already there, her face pressed against the observation screen. Her hands moved across the controls, pulling up data streams that made no sense to. "Talk to me," he said. She did not look away from the screen. "Something is eating the star in Sector 9. Moved closer. Stars don't get eaten." "This one is," pointed to the readings. "That red giant we have been studying for 6 months, its mass is dropping, fast. Something is pulling matter directly from the core." Captain Danny burst through the door, still pulling on his jacket. The harvesting station just went dark, all communications cut off. Felt ice form in his stomach. The harvesting station orbited that same red giant. Humanity had spent 2 years building it. The experimental star-lifting technology was supposed to provide clean energy for a dozen colony worlds. 300 people worked on that station. "Get me a visual," ordered. The main screen flickered to life. The red giant filled most of the view, its surface boiling with violent solar flares. But something else was there. Something massive moved through the star's corona like a fish swimming through water. "What in the name of Earth is that?" Danny whispered. The thing was hard to look at. It seemed to shift and change shape, part biological and part machine. Could see what looked like organic tissue flowing over metal structures. The creature was easily 10 kilometers long, maybe more. It moved with purpose, circling the star's equator. Lieutenant Torres ran to her station. "Commander, I am picking up a signal. It is not radio, not anything we use." "Can you translate it?" "Working on it. The pattern is strange. It feels like it is coming from inside my head." Pulled up more data. "The mass loss is accelerating. That thing is consuming the star, but look at this." She highlighted a section of the readings. "The consumption is controlled, precise. It is only taking matter from specific layers of the core." "Why would something do that?" asked. "I have no idea, but we interrupted it. Look at the timeline. Our harvesting equipment started pulling matter from the upper corona 6 hours ago. That is when this thing appeared." The creature suddenly stopped moving. For a moment, it hung motionless in the burning plasma of the star. Then it turned. Did not know how he knew it was looking at them, but he felt it in his bones. "All ships pull back to safe distance," ordered. "Now." The creature moved faster than anything that size should move. It shot out of the star like a bullet, trailing fire and plasma. The harvesting station never had a chance. One moment it was there. The next moment nothing but expanding debris. "3 support ships destroyed," Danny reported, his voice tight. "The thing just ripped through them." Suddenly grabbed her head. "Commander, the signal, it is getting stronger. I can almost understand it." "What is it saying?" "It is angry, no, not angry, offended. We took something that belonged to it. We took from the eternal feast." Looked up, her face pale. "It says compensation will be collected." The creature hung in space, surrounded by the wreckage of human ships. Then it simply vanished. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. No flash of light, no engine burn. It just stopped existing in that location. "Where did it go?" demanded. His fingers flew across her console. "Subspace entry, but the energy signature is massive, much bigger than any jump we have ever recorded." "Can you track it?" "I am trying, but there is something else. Commander, look at this." She brought up a wide-range scan. "Those are subspace signatures, hundreds of them, all heading toward human space." Stared at the screen. Each signature represented something large, something using energy levels that should not be possible. They were coming from all directions, converging like sharks sensing blood in the water. "Get me a channel to Earth," he said quietly. "Priority 1, we need to warn everyone." Before Danny could respond, a new ship appeared on sensors. This one was familiar. The elegant curves and crystal structures marked it as belonging to the Galactic Council. Humanity had joined the Council only 20 years ago. They were still the members, still learning the rules. The communication came through immediately. The alien on the screen had blue skin and too many eyes. Recognized Speaker Horn, one of the senior Council members. "Commander," the alien said, its voice carried a weight of sadness. "We detected the Void Seeker response. I am sorry. We should have warned you about the feeding grounds." Feeding grounds, felt anger rising. You knew about those things. Every civilized species knows about the Void Seekers. They are older than most stars in this galaxy. They maintain the balance, preventing stellar collapse and premature supernovas. We mark their sacred feeding grounds and never approach them. That star was not marked on any chart you gave us. The star became a feeding ground only recently in the last 1,000 years. We had not updated the maps for this sector. An oversight. Horn's expression shifted to something that might have been pity. But it does not matter now. You have committed the unforgivable offense. You harvested from their sacred feast. It was an accident. We did not know. The Void Seekers do not recognize accidents. They do not forgive. They do not negotiate. Horn paused. Commander, I am truly sorry, but I must deliver the formal message. Congratulations, you have just started a war with a species that devours stars. The communication cut off. The Council ship jumped away, abandoning human space to whatever was coming. Looked at the sensor readings again, more signatures appearing every minute, hundreds becoming thousands, all heading toward the world's humanity called home. Spoke quietly. If those things can eat stars, what chance do our weapons have? I don't know, straightened his shoulders. But we are about to find out. Danny, set course for Earth, maximum speed. We need to warn everyone and start preparing a defense. Defense against what? Danny asked. How do you fight something that swims through the heart of a sun? Did not have an answer. He just watched the screen as more and more Void Seekers converged on human territory. Somewhere out there, 300 people had died because humanity had taken something without knowing it was claimed. Now millions more might pay the price. The red giant continued to burn behind them, already smaller than it had been that morning. The Void Seekers had returned to their feast, unconcerned with the species that had dared to interrupt them. They would finish their meal. Then they would come to collect what humanity owed. The war room in Geneva was built to hold 200 people. Today it held nearly 500. Every admiral, every general, every fleet commander humanity could spare had gathered on Earth. The room buzzed with dozens of conversations, all trying to solve the same impossible problem. Admiral Gregg stood at the central display. He was 60 years old with gray hair and scars from the border wars. He had seen combat. He had made hard choices, but nothing in his career had prepared him for this. Quiet down, he called out. The room fell silent. Ambassador Hart has just returned from the Galactic Council. She has information we need to hear. Ambassador Hart stepped forward. She looked tired. The trip to the Council station and back had taken 3 days at maximum jump speed. 3 days while the Void Seekers moved closer to human worlds. The Council will not help us, she said bluntly. They invoked the ancient protocols. Any species that interferes with Void Seeker affairs is marked for destruction alongside the offender. Someone in the back shouted, "They are just going to let us die." Yes, pulled up a holographic display. The Council gave me access to their historical records. 17 species have gone to war with the Void Seekers in the last 50 million years. None survived. The Void Seekers did not just destroy their fleets. They consumed the home stars of every species that resisted. Billions died when their suns simply vanished. The room erupted in angry voices. Gregg let them vent for a moment before calling for silence again. What do we know about these things? He asked. Nodded to the display. A Void Seeker appeared, rotating slowly. They are older than most civilizations in the galaxy. The Council believes they evolved near the galactic core, where stars are packed close together. They developed the ability to extract energy directly from stellar matter. Why, someone asked. Survival. Their original planet was caught between multiple stars. Extreme radiation should have killed everything. Instead, they adapted. They learned to eat radiation, then plasma, then the stars themselves. Eventually, they left their world and spread across the galaxy. Blake raised her hand. She had arrived from the station yesterday, bringing every scan and recording from the first encounter. I have been studying their behavior. They are not mindless creatures. The way they consume stars is precise, surgical almost. They take matter from specific layers, balancing the star's fusion process. What does that mean? Gregg asked. It means they are maintaining the stars, not just feeding on them. They prevent premature collapse. They stop supernovas before they start. The Void Seekers are like cosmic gardeners. They prune and shape stellar evolution across the entire galaxy. Nodded, the Council confirmed that. Without the Void Seekers, this section of the galaxy would be far more dangerous. Unstable stars would explode constantly. Radiation would make entire sectors uninhabitable. So we attacked their food supply and their job site at the same time, Greg said grimly. Wonderful. Had been quiet until now. He stood near the back, still wearing his field uniform. We need to find a weakness. Everything has a weakness. Commander is correct, said. She pulled up new data. During the attack, I recorded everything. The Void Seeker was vulnerable when it was feeding. For just a few seconds, it opened what looked like a dimensional rift. It exposed part of its internal structure. The display showed the creature attached to the red giant, its body stretched thin as it pulled matter into itself. Deep inside, something glowed with intense light. That is its core, continued. The biological center where it processes stellar matter. During the feeding phase, the core is exposed. That is the only time I detected any weakness. How long does the feeding phase last? Greg asked. 47 seconds. Then it closes the rift and the core is protected again. 47 seconds to attack something inside a star's corona. Greg shook his head. Our ships would melt in 10 seconds at those temperatures. Not if we use the right shielding, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Engineer Chris pushed through the crowd. He was young, maybe 30, with burned scars on his hands from working with prototype systems. I have been developing adaptive thermal shielding for the sun-skimming fuel collectors, Chris explained. It is based on extremophile bacteria from Earth. Those bacteria survive in thermal vents at the bottom of the ocean, where temperatures exceed what should be possible for life. How does that help us? Asked. The bacteria do not just resist heat. They adapt to it in real time. Their cellular structure shifts to channel extreme temperatures through them instead of absorbing it. I applied the same principle to a new type of shielding. In simulations, it can withstand stellar core temperatures for up to 47 seconds. The room went completely silent. Only in simulations? Greg asked quietly. Yes, sir. We have not had time to test it in actual stellar conditions. The project was supposed to take 5 more years. We do not have 5 years. We do not have 5 weeks. Greg looked at the strategic display. A red icon showed the nearest Void Seeker fleet. They are 3 days from New Haven Colony. 4 million people live there. How fast can you produce this shielding? Chris did some quick calculations. If we dedicate every factory on Mars and the Moon, we could outfit 200 single-pilot fighters in 70 hours. Make it happen. I want you to coordinate the defense of New Haven. Blake, you work with, figure out the exact moment those things will start feeding. That is our window. Sir said, even if the shielding works, how do we damage their core? What weapons do we use? Antimatter warheads, Greg replied. We load each fighter with enough antimatter to crack a moon. If we can detonate inside the core, it should at least hurt them. Should looked troubled. Admiral, you are gambling 4 million lives on should. I am gambling 4 million lives on humanity's refusal to give up, Greg said. The Council told you no species has ever survived a war with the Void Seekers. Fine, we will be the first. Get to New Haven, start the evacuation of non-essential personnel, but tell the people we are not abandoning that world. We are going to defend it. The meeting broke up. People scattered to their assignments, found himself walking toward the landing pads. This is insane, she said quietly. Flying into a star, even if the shielding works, the pilots will experience temperatures that would vaporize steel. I know. They will probably die. I know, stopped walking. But we have to try. If we abandon New Haven without a fight, every colony in human space will panic. We need to show we can hurt these things, even if it costs us everything. Looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the Void Seekers were coming. Ancient, powerful, and angry. They had survived for millions of years. They had destroyed 17 civilizations. They devoured stars. We are from Earth, said, following her gaze. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars and disasters and near extinction 100 times over. We are still here because we do not know how to quit. The Void Seekers are older than our entire species. Age does not matter. Strength does not matter. What matters is this: they think we will run. They think we will beg for mercy. They think we are like every other species they have crushed. Started walking again. They are about to learn that humans are different. We are from a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We learn to fight back, and we are very, very good at it. New Haven was a rough world even by human standards. The gravity was 30% higher than Earth normal. Radiation from the nearby star required everyone to take daily medicine. The weather swung from freezing storms to baking heat in a matter of hours. But 4 million people called it home. They had built cities into the mountains, carved farms from the tough soil, and made lives for themselves on a world that did not want them. Now they were being told to leave. Stood on the balcony of the governor's office, watching the evacuation ships rise into the sky. One every 10 minutes, each carrying 5,000 people. At that rate, they could evacuate maybe half the population before the Void Seekers arrived. "The rest stay and fight?" Governor Lisa asked. She was not related to Captain Danny. She had built New Haven from scratch 20 years ago when it was just a mining outpost. "The rest stay and hope we win," corrected. "I will not lie to you, Lisa. Our plan is desperate. It might not work. But you are trying anyway." "We are trying anyway." Lisa looked at her city. Lights were coming on as evening fell. Families were having dinner. Children were playing in the parks. Normal life continuing even as an ancient threat approached. "My people will not run, not all of them. This is their home." "I understand." Did understand. Humans bonded to places. They put down roots. It was part of what made them human. On the other side of the planet, the Thermal Shock Squadron was assembling. Captain Brandon Cole walked through the hangar, inspecting each fighter personally. The ships were small, built for speed and maneuverability. Each one carried enough antimatter to destroy a small moon. "Shielding test complete on Fighter 17, a technician reported. "Holding stable." Brandon nodded. The new shielding looked strange. It was not solid metal or ceramic. Instead, it appeared almost alive, shifting and flowing across the fighter's hull. Chris had explained the science, but Brandon did not really understand it. He just needed to know it would keep him alive for 47 seconds inside a star. That was all the time they would have. Lieutenant Foster was the youngest pilot in the squadron. He was 23, fresh from the academy. This was supposed to be a simple patrol assignment. Instead, he was preparing to fly into temperatures that would melt diamonds. "You scared?" Brandon asked him. "Terrified, sir." "Good, fear keeps you sharp. Just remember your training. Follow your instruments, not your eyes. Trust the shielding. And when you see that core, put your missile right into it." "Yes, sir." Doctor arrived from Earth carrying samples of the extremophile bacteria that inspired the shielding design. She set up a lab in the colony's research center and began running final tests. "This is incredible," she told Chris as they worked. "These bacteria should not be able to survive. The temperatures in their natural habitat exceed what any known biological structure can withstand. But they adapted. They found a way." "That is what life does," Chris said. "It finds a way. Earth taught us that. Life on our planet survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, volcanic eruptions. Life adapts. The Void Seekers adapted too. They learned to eat stars. Then we will adapt to fight them." In orbits, flagship Resilience took up position with the rest of the human fleet. 40 warships, every vessel that could reach New Haven in time. Against the sensors showed 7 Void Seekers approaching. Just 7. But 7 was enough to destroy the entire colony. Worked on the bridge, her eyes locked to the stellar analysis screens. "They are starting to slow down, preparing to enter the star's corona." "Time to feeding phase?" asked. 6 hours, maybe less. They will circle the star first, analyzing it. Then they will begin consumption. 6 hours, opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships battle stations, Thermal Shock Squadron begin pre-flight checks. This is not a drill. When those things start feeding, we hit them with everything we have." Across the fleet, thousands of men and women prepared for battle. Most of them knew the odds. Many of them had written final letters home, but none of them asked to leave. This was what humanity did. When something threatened their people, they stood and fought. Brandon gathered his squadron in the hangar. 200 pilots, all volunteers. He looked at their faces. Some were veterans like him. Others were young like. All of them were brave. "I am not going to give you a big speech," he said. "You all know what we are doing. We are flying into a star to attack creatures that have existed for millions of years. The shielding might fail. The heat might kill us before we reach the target. We might die for nothing." He paused. "But we might also win. We might hurt these things so badly they think twice about attacking us again. We might save 4 million people. We might show the whole galaxy that humans do not surrender, no matter what we are facing. Brandon looked at each pilot. Earth made us survivors, it made us stubborn, it made us refuse to accept defeat. So we go into that fire, and we show these ancient creatures what happens when you threaten a species. The pilots began moving to their fighters, stopped beside Brandon. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Do you think we will survive this?" Brandon considered the question. "Honestly, I think some of us will, maybe most of us. The shielding is good, the plan is solid, but some of us will die. That is the price." "And you are willing to pay it?" "I have 2 daughters back on Earth," Brandon said quietly. 8 and 10 years old. If we do not stop the Void Seekers here, they might go after Earth next. I will pay any price to keep them safe. Every person in this squadron is paying that same price. Nodded and headed to his fighter. 6 hours passed. The Void Seekers reached the star. They began their circling pattern, massive forms moving through the corona like they were swimming. The human fleet watched and waited. Then the Void Seekers stopped. They positioned themselves evenly around the star's equator, and they began to feed. "Energy signatures spiking," reported. "Dimensional rifts opening. I can see the cores, all 7 are exposed." "All fighters launch now," ordered. 200 fighters shot from the hangar bays. They formed up into 7 groups, each targeting one Void Seeker. The adaptive shielding activated, glowing with a strange blue light. Brandon led Group 1. He pushed his fighter to maximum speed, heading directly for the star. The heat readings climbed rapidly, 1,000 degrees, 5,000, 10,000. "Shielding holding," reported over the comm. They plunged into the corona. The view outside turned into a wall of fire. The fighter bucked and shook as solar winds buffeted it. Brandon could feel the heat even through the shielding. His skin felt like it was burning. 30 seconds to rift entry, his computer announced. Behind them, the human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Missiles and rounds and energy weapons, all targeting the Void Seekers. Most of the attacks were absorbed by the creature's natural defenses, but a few struck home, creating small explosions on their surfaces. The Void Seekers noticed. They began to react, starting to close the rifts early. "They are adapting," shouted. "You have less time than we thought, maybe 30 seconds total." "All groups maximum speed," Brandon ordered. "Hit them before they close those rifts." The fighters dove deeper into the star. The temperatures exceeded anything humans had ever experienced. Fighter 9 suddenly exploded, its shielding failing. Then Fighter 23. Then 6 more. "Keep going," Brandon said. "We are almost there." He could see the rift now, a tear in space itself. Through it, he glimpsed something that hurt to look at. The Void Seeker's core, a swirling mass of dark matter and organic tissue, processing stellar material at impossible speeds. "All groups fire on my mark," Brandon said. He waited until every group was in position. Waited until all the surviving fighters had a clear shot at their targets. "Fire!" 183 antimatter missiles launched simultaneously. They crossed the distance in seconds, each one aimed at an exposed core. The Void Seekers tried to close the rifts, but they were too slow. The missiles punched through. The antimatter detonations lit up the star's corona like miniature supernovas. Brandon felt the shock wave hit his fighter, spinning it wildly. Alarms screamed. The shielding flickered. He fought the controls, trying to stabilize. Around him, fighters tumbled through the plasma. Some regained control. Others did not. Fighter 42 melted, its hull simply coming apart in the heat. Fighter 67 was caught in a solar flare and vanished. "All groups pull back," Brandon ordered. "Get out of the corona now." The surviving fighters turned and burned hard, racing away from the star. Behind them, something terrible was happening. The Void Seekers were dying. On the Resilience watched her screens in horror and wonder. The antimatter is cascading through their neural network. Each explosion is triggering chain reactions in the others. The Void Seekers thrashed in the star's embrace. Their massive bodies convulsed. Whatever passed for their screams echoed through subspace, a sound that made every human on every ship feel sick to their bones. One by one, the creatures came apart. Their dark matter cores destabilized. The organic tissue that held them together dissolved. 6 of the 7 Void Seekers died in the span of 30 seconds, their remains scattering across the star system. But the 7th survived. It was badly wounded. Great chunks of its body were missing. Its movements were jerky and uncoordinated, but it was alive, and it was angry. The wounded Void Seeker turned toward the human fleet. It gathered itself, preparing to attack. "All ships weapons free," ordered. "Hit it with everything." The fleet opened fire, 40 warships unleashing their full arsenals. Missiles streaked through space. Rounds moved at a fraction of light speed. Energy beams carved through the vacuum. The Void Seeker took the punishment and kept coming. It was slower than before, damaged, but still impossibly dangerous. It reached the fleet line and smashed into the destroyer Valiant. The ship crumpled like paper. Then the surviving fighters from the Thermal Shock Squadron arrived. They had used all their antimatter missiles on the first attack. Now they only had conventional weapons. But they attacked anyway, swarming the wounded Void Seeker like angry bees. Brandon lined up his and fired. The solid slug punched into the creature's damaged side. It barely noticed. But when 50 fighters hit it at once, it noticed. The Void Seeker tried to swat them away, but the small ships were too fast, too maneuverable. Saw an opening, a gap in the creature's body where the antimatter had torn through. He could see deeper inside where damaged tissue was trying to regenerate. Without thinking, he dove his fighter straight into the wound. "Foster, what are you doing?" Brandon shouted. Did not answer. He flew through tunnels of alien flesh, dodging wildly as the Void Seeker's body tried to close around him. He fired his continuously, tearing through internal structures. His fighter's nose cone melted from the heat, but the shielding held. Deep inside, he found what he was looking for. A secondary core, smaller than the main one but still vital. The creature had multiple cores, a backup system in case one was damaged. Armed his fighters self-destruct. He had 10 seconds to eject. But if he ejected, the Void Seeker might survive. It might regenerate. It might kill everyone. "Tell my mom I love her," said over the comm. "Foster, eject now," Brandon ordered. "That is an order." "Sorry, sir, I am from Earth. We finish what we start." Push the button. His fighter's reactor overloaded, creating an explosion that tore through the Void Seeker's secondary core. The creature's entire body shuddered. Then it began to break apart, its backup systems destroyed. The Void Seeker died. Its remains drifted in space, already beginning to dissolve into cosmic radiation. On the Resilience, everyone was silent. They had won, 7 Void Seekers destroyed. New Haven saved, but the cost had been terrible. "Final count," said quietly. Checked her screens. 111 fighters lost. The destroyer Valiant destroyed with all hands. 2 frigates heavily damaged. Estimated casualties 3,412. 3,000 people. Dead to save 4 million. The math said it was worth it, but math did not account for the families who would never see their loved ones again. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we are picking up a transmission. It is coming from deep space. Multiple sources." "Put it through." The transmission was not in any human language. It was not in any language at all. It was pure information, dumped directly into their computers and translated by the AI. The wounded 7th Void Seeker had not been completely destroyed. A fragment of it had survived long enough to send a message, a call for help, a warning to others of its kind. And they had answered. Pulled up the sensor data, her face went pale. "Oh no, oh no, no, no." "What is it?" demanded. "Subspace signatures, thousands of them, all converging on this location," she looked at. "The dying Void Seeker called for reinforcements, and they are coming, not just a few, the entire species, every Void Seeker in this sector of the galaxy." Looked at the sensor display. Each dot represented something that could swim through a star, something that could destroy a ship with a touch, something humanity had just barely defeated with a suicide attack and incredible luck. And there were thousands of them coming. "How long?" he asked. 3 days, maybe 4. Open the fleet-wide channel. All ships begin evacuation of New Haven, emergency protocols, get every civilian off this planet and back to Earth. We won this battle, but the war just got a lot bigger. Brandon brought his fighter into the Resilience's hangar. 89 other fighters landed with him. 111 empty spaces marked where his friends had been. Where had been. He climbed out of his cockpit and found Chris waiting. "The shielding worked," Brandon said. "You saved our lives." "Not all of you." "No, not all of us, but enough." Brandon looked at the empty hangar spaces. "We hurt them, Chris. We actually hurt creatures that devour stars. Humans did that. And now they are coming for revenge." "Let them come." Brandon was exhausted. His skin was burned, his hands shook, but his voice was steady. "We are from Earth. We know how to fight, we know how to survive, and we just proved we can kill them." On New Haven's surface, the evacuation continued. Ships rose day and night, carrying people to safety, but not everyone left. Thousands of colonists refused to go. This was their home. They would defend it. Governor Lisa stayed with them. She organized shelters and stockpiled supplies. If the Void Seekers came back, her people would be ready. They might not win, but they would fight. Stood on the Resilience's bridge, watching the planet below, watching the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, an ancient species was gathering its forces. An entire civilization dedicated to maintaining stellar balance across the galaxy. A civilization humanity had just attacked. "We should run," said quietly. "Evacuate every colony, pull back to Earth, build defenses there." "No," said. "If we run, they will chase us. If we hide, they will find us. The only way forward is through." "Through what? A war we cannot win." "A war we cannot afford to lose." Pulled up a galaxy map. "The Void Seekers think they are invincible. They think they are untouchable. For millions of years, no one has challenged them. Today we proved they are wrong. Today we showed them that humans can fight back. We barely won. We lost over 100 pilots. We only survived because of luck and desperation." "Luck and desperation are what humans are good at," smiled grimly. "The Void Seekers are coming to punish us, to teach us our place. They are about to learn something important about humans. We do not know our place, we make our own place, and we defend it to the last breath." The evacuation ships continued to rise. The fleet began repairs. The survivors mourned their dead, and across Earth had 3 days to prepare for the end of the world. Every ship in human space raced toward home. Every colony sent its defenders. Every factory worked day and night building weapons that might not even work. People watched the news and saw the same thing over and over. Thousands of Void Seekers converging on humanity's home system. Admiral Gregg stood in the command center looking at the strategic display. It showed Earth's defenses, orbital platforms, minefields, energy barriers, 300 ships arranged in defensive shells around the planet. It looked impressive until you saw what was coming. "We cannot win this fight," said General Martinez, head of the ground forces. "Maybe we should negotiate, offer compensation." "They do not want compensation," Ambassador Hart said. She had just returned from another meeting with the Galactic Council. "The Council representatives are evacuating their embassies. They say Earth will be gone in a week." "Then we make them pay for every meter of space," Gregg said. "If Earth falls, we make sure the Void Seekers remember the cost." Across the solar system, humanity prepared for its last stand. Colony ships loaded with children and families began jumping to distant systems. Hidden bases were stocked with supplies. Humanity would survive even if Earth did not. That was the plan. But had a different idea. He stood on the bridge of the Resilience, which was now in orbit around Earth. Was with him, along with the surviving pilots from the Thermal Shock Squadron. Brandon Cole had burns across half his body but refused to stay in medical. "This is insane," said. "You want to talk to them." "We tried fighting. We won one battle, but we cannot win a war against their entire species." Pulled up the sensor data. "Look at this. The Void Seekers are not rushing in. They are taking their time, moving carefully. That 7th one we wounded sent them information. They know we are dangerous now. So they will be more careful when they kill us. Or maybe they will be willing to listen." Turned to the communications officer. "Can you broadcast on the same frequency the dying Void Seeker used?" "Yes, sir, but we do not know if they will understand." "They will understand. They are intelligent. They have to be to maintain stellar balance across the galaxy. Intelligence means they can think. Thinking means they can change their minds." Brandon spoke up. "Sir, what are you going to say to creatures that eat stars?" Smiled. "I am going to tell them a story about Earth. The Void Seeker fleet arrived exactly 72 hours after the battle at New Haven. They dropped out of subspace at the edge of the solar system. Thousands of massive forms, each one capable of destroying a fleet by itself. They did not attack immediately. They just waited. Then something moved at the front of their formation, something bigger than anything humanity had seen before. A void seeker easily 50 kilometers long, ancient beyond measure. Its body was covered in what looked like scars from a million battles. This was the matriarch, the eldest of her species. She moved forward alone, approaching Earth's defensive perimeter. Every weapon in the fleet locked onto her, but gave the order to hold fire. "Broadcasting now," the communications officer said. His message went out on every frequency. Audio, visual, quantum, and the strange subspace channel the Void Seekers used. "My name is Commander. I speak for humanity. We know you have come for revenge. We know you could destroy us. But before you do, we ask that you understand what you are destroying." The matriarch stopped. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a reply came, not in words, in pure thought, translated by human computers into language. "You attacked the sacred feast. You destroyed 7 of my children. Why should I listen?" "Because it was an accident. We did not know about the feeding grounds. We did not know about your species. We are new to the galaxy. We made a mistake." "Ignorance is not innocence. Your mistake cost lives." "You are right, and we paid for that mistake. We lost over 100 pilots defending against your children's attack. 3,000 people died total. We know the price of our ignorance." The matriarch moved closer, could see her more clearly now through the telescopes. Her body was not just biological. It was part of the fabric of space itself, existing partially in dimensions humans could barely perceive. "Why did you fight?" the matriarch asked. "Every other species fled or begged. You attacked. You destroyed my children with fire and sacrifice. Why?" "Because we are from Earth." Activated a data transmission. It showed Earth's history. The ice ages that nearly wiped out early humans, the plagues that killed millions, the asteroid impacts, the volcanic eruptions, the wars. All the countless ways Earth had tried to kill humanity, and all the times humanity had survived. "Our planet was explained. For millions of years it tried to destroy us. We were not the strongest species. We were not the fastest. But we learned to adapt. We learned to survive. And most importantly, we learned to protect what is ours." The matriarch absorbed the information. "You survived by being stubborn. We survived by refusing to surrender, by standing together when things looked hopeless, by fighting even when we knew we might lose." Paused. "Your children came to New Haven to feed on our star. 4 million humans lived there. They were our people. We could have evacuated and let you take the planet. But humans do not abandon their homes. We defend them. Even against impossible odds. Especially against impossible odds. That is what Earth taught us. You do not run from the predator. You do not hide from the disaster. You face it. You fight it. And you survive." Another pause, then the matriarch asked, "What do you know of survival? You are a young species, barely past your first steps into space." "We know everything about survival," said. "Let me show you." More data streamed out. Earth's wildlife. Lions hunting in packs. Wolves coordinating attacks. Humans working together to bring down prey 10 times their size. The evolution of cooperation, of sacrifice for the group, of individuals giving their lives so others could live. "This is what we are," said. "We are predators who learn to work together. We are prey who learn to fight back. We are survivors who refuse to accept extinction. When you threatened New Haven, we did what Earth taught us to do. We protected our own." The matriarch was silent for a long time. The entire Void Seeker fleet waited. Every human ship held position. The fate of billions hung in the balance. Finally, the matriarch spoke again. "I have existed for 50 million years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have watched stars be born and die. In all that time, I have never met a species like yours." "What makes us different?" "Most species beg, they promise to serve, they offer tribute. You did none of these things. You fought, you hurt us. And now you stand here, not asking for mercy, but demanding respect." "We are not asking for war either," said. "We know we made a mistake. We are willing to make it right. But we will not surrender. We will not flee. If you want to destroy us, you will have to pay a price. And it will be a high price." The matriarch moved even closer, until she was just outside Earth's orbital defense grid. Every weapon in the fleet tracked her, but kept the order to hold fire. "Tell me, human, how many of your pilots survived the attack on my children?" 89 out of 200. They flew into a star to protect others. They knew they would probably die. Yes, that is not strategy, that is not tactics, that is sacrifice. The matriarch's voice changed, becoming something almost like respect. My species evolved in the heart of dying stars. We learned to consume stellar matter because our world was caught in a radiation storm that lasted for millions of years. We adapted. We survived. We spread across the galaxy to escape extinction. Felt his heart racing. You are survivors too. Yes, we understand the drive to protect what is yours. We understand fighting against impossible odds. When you attacked my children, I came here expecting to find conquerors, warriors seeking power. Instead, I find survivors protecting their home. The matriarch broadcast something new. Memories. Her memories. The Void Seeker's home world burning under the light of multiple stars. Her ancestors dying by the billions as radiation poisoned their planet. The few who survived, learning to feed on the very thing that was killing them. The long struggle to escape their doomed world and find purpose among the stars. We were like you once, the matriarch said. Desperate, stubborn, refusing to die even when the universe itself seemed against us. Then you understand why we fought. I do, the matriarch began to pull back. We will not destroy Earth. We will not attack your colonies. Your species has earned something very few ever receive from us, respect. Could not believe what she was hearing. You are just going to leave. No, we propose a treaty. Humanity will mark the sacred feeding grounds and never harvest from them. In exchange, we will protect human space from other cosmic threats. There are dangers in this galaxy you do not yet understand. Things older and stranger than even us. We will keep them away from your worlds. Greg activated his comm. What are the terms? Simple, do not interfere with our work. We maintain the stars so they do not destroy everything around them. This benefits you as much as any species. In return, we will teach you to recognize feeding grounds. We will warn you of cosmic dangers. And we will remember that humans, though young and reckless, are survivors like us. Felt relief wash over him, but he had to ask, what about the 7 Void Seekers we killed? What about the 3,000 humans who died in their attack? The matriarch countered. We were both defending what was ours. We both paid a price. Let that be the end of it. The treaty was formalized over the next 3 days. Human scientists worked with Void Seeker representatives to map the sacred feeding grounds. Defensive pacts were signed. The Galactic Council watched in shock as humanity and the Void Seekers became allies. On the 4th day, the matriarch prepared to leave. But first, she had one more thing to say. She broadcasted across all human space so everyone could hear. We name you Starkin. In 50 million years, only one other species earned that title. They are long gone, returned to dust. But we remember them, and we will remember you, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as survivors who refuse to bow. The Void Seeker fleet departed, returning to their eternal vigil over the galaxy's stars. They left behind something humanity had never expected, respect from a species older than human civilization itself. Stood on Earth looking up at the stars, stood beside him. We almost went extinct, she said quietly. Almost, but we did not, because we did what humans always do, we fought back. And now the galaxy knows what we are, not the strongest, not the oldest, but survivors, and survivors do not quit. News spread fast. 3 other species approached humanity, asking for defensive pacts. They had seen what happened. They knew that humans would fight for their allies the same way they fought for themselves. The Galactic Council quietly began revising their assessment of humanity. This young species was more dangerous than anyone had realized, not because of their weapons, but because they simply refused to accept defeat. Brandon Cole recovered from his burns. He went back to training pilots, teaching them the lessons learned from flying into a star. His first words to every new class were the same. We are from Earth. We do not start fights, but we finish them. And somewhere in deep space, the matriarch told her children about the species that had hurt them, about the humans who flew into stars to protect their own, about the survivors from a who earned the respect of beings that devoured stars. She ended with a warning. Never underestimate them. They are small, they are young, but they are Starkin, and that makes them dangerous. Human space, the call went out for volunteers, for ships, for weapons, for anything that could help in the coming war. Earth had faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, near misses with asteroids. Every time humanity had survived, not because they were the strongest, not because they were but because they refused to give up. The Void Seekers were about to learn that lesson the hard way. And then the stars themselves seemed to scream. The transport lifted off, carrying them toward New Haven, toward the coming battle, toward a war that should be impossible to win. But humans had never cared much about what was impossible. They just kept fighting anyway. Pulled up the fleet roster. Every ship, every weapon, every defense platform humanity had built in 200 years of space travel. It looked so small against what was coming. But humans had survived worse. They had climbed up from Earth, a planet that had tried to kill them every single day. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. Now they would have to survive this, or die trying.